From the dawn of time, man has had the sun as a helper, something that gives light. It's easy to see how people would worship the sun. We can find iconography from thousands of years ago because the sun was what brought us our warmth every day. It brought us light, which protected us from the creatures that could be attacking us at night. Each day it seemed to rise again to help us out, to be the thing that kept us going and grew our crops and made everything work. It's a symbol that is seen through time and time primordial. Every culture has a sun symbol in it. And once we started looking at the stars and realizing reasons and eclipses and things, and we formed constellations and tried to give them names. These constellations eventually gave forth a zodiac for a time of year. Once we started watching the procession of the sun and how as it through the year went through the zodiac, it would give us all of our 4 seasons. And in doing so, we could choreograph time, or we eventually saw God's masterwork. We saw how the seasons came and went. And believe me, for primordial man, this was a major uh, accomplishment to figure out that what the year really was and things. And who does it get credit to? Well, it's a credit to God, but God told us this knowledge. Let's take a time out here and look at this just a little bit more closer. So, God's Son. This is God's only begotten Son. The ancients supposedly got knowledge from the gods that there could have been more suns, that these wandering planets that are out there, the wandering stars, the planets, could actually have been suns. You know, they have this knowledge, they say, but then this is the only one that's his begotten Son. And it's an odd thing, but God set fire to his only Son to give us heat. Now, this was God's Son, and now in Latin and English, it's also Son, S-O-N. This works about the time of the Bible when Latin comes in, but so he set fire to his only Son to give warmth, life, and light to the world. Boy, that sounds so Gnostic, doesn't it? And it definitely is, but we'll get back to that. This sun is the bringer of life on the planet. You know, everybody realizes that without the sun, that it wouldn't be growing plants. And the firmament, when they see a puddle of water and the sun dries it up, it actually gives firmament to things. What was mud becomes hard, and that over time perhaps God cooked these elements different ways, and that's what makes rock and things like that. It's just a primordial thought of people. But God set his only Son on fire to give light to the world. He gave up his only Son. There's the sacrifice, and you can see that this is what people later turned into the idea that they should sacrifice their children into fire, just like he had originally done, to appease him, because we're not getting rain anymore. There's droughts and famine. When you look into this, there's an ancient story about the boat people that come, that they're giants, and that they, going through a hard time of drought, sacrifice his only Son, and in this manner, in that fire manner, and he kills him and then he burns him. And, you know, just like the bull sacrifices. And in doing so, it actually does rain for these people, and the drought ends. And people noticing that fact hundreds of years later started picking that up, and it became a religion that the Jews were very much involved with, this Baal religion where they would sacrifice their children. The problem all stems from stuff like this, where one time a king over the people sacrificed his own son, just like the God had done and set his own son on fire, our son. And because of that, and the way mythology worked out, they thought that it would work out. And apparently it rained after that happened and brought an end to their drought for a period of time. So when it started to be a drought again, they reinstalled it and did it again. And then next thing you know, they had you starting to kill your own children and sons and daughters to these false idols, these gods. So primordial man was invariably, scared of the dark, if you will, because of all the things that were there. I mean, there literally were monsters anywhere that there was darkness. In the abyss of the ocean, you couldn't see. Any place you couldn't see, you didn't know about. It was frightening. And so the thing that gave you solace from that, I guess, solace, think of the word solace, the thing that gave you solidarity from that would be Sol, the sun. And the sun, in his rising, would chase away the darkness and make it to where you could see everything. But darkness overwon somehow, and they tried to reckon this. They reckoned that the sun had been there first, but that darkness gets to take over at nighttime, and that's when the stars are all active. But during the day, you can't see the stars. They seem to disappear in the light of the sun. So that must be, aha, this is how they figured it out. And so this is where we get, a lot of our worship from sun worship. And, God, they figured that the sun had been here first, that it had created the earth due to its power and all the other planets. And so that must be God's first thing. Well, God was the heavens and the earth, was the mother. And those two together formed the sun. And that sun is what gave life to everything. So it's pretty easy to see that the heavens are our father and the earth is our mother. And the sun was their creation also, that he helped create everything the way that it is, that made us, with time, which brings Saturn into view. But we end up living with our mother, and we hope one day to be able to go to see our Father, to go to the heavens. We all want to go into space. We all want to do that space travel thing and zoom through the galaxies. It seems to be the coolest thing that man could do. In fact, it seems to be the thing that we're destined to do. We're like the bastard child or the single parent kid that doesn't have the father. The father is away from reach, and we're with the mother. And once we grow up, we're supposed to be able to go and be with the Father. And as we mature and unbabbilize ourselves here, we should be able to easily get there. I've seen it in my lifetime. We were actually touching the face or the hand of God for a period of time, and as a people we seem to somehow have just staved it off, and now there's this thing holding us back. After that, they had lit him on fire, that his solar wind had blown everything into existence and caused the planets to form, his brothers to come back from the dead of being eaten by the heavens. And this gets reoccurring through the planet Saturn, and Saturn who would eat his children. and Saturn is Saturn and Satan. So you get a connection that comes through this with the sun and the moon and the stars and things we would believe living on this planet, back when we thought it was flat, like that looks there. The middle of time gets pretty foggy, we seem to have lost ourselves for a while, but then enlightenment comes again, and ooh, there's that lens flare, looks like Nibiru, but enlightenment comes, and this chases away the fog, turns it into clouds. Clouds turn into rain. Rain brings us life again, and it all rolls in a big happy circle. And it's all caused because of the sun. We know the sun is our generator of life in our solar system. It's what caused everything. It's the controller itself. So it would be easy for us to make that connection. Let's look at, iconography through time and churches and see if we can find all this symbolism and how it works. The Egyptian god Horus, somewhere around 3000, 3200 BC, is shown, of course, being a sun. He is the son of Osiris, and he is the sun. And it's looked at in ancient Egyptian as that Horus was light and Set was darkness. And they would have a fight each day. And during that fight, Horus would take advantage of Set and the sun would come up, but then Set would take advantage of Horus and the nighttime would come.